All right, welcome everyone to today's habit number four. And if you're just kind of tuning in for the first one, welcome. These habits that we're studying right now are kind of principle based, and it's really about the 7 habits to highly effective people. And Stephen Covey wrote the book. There are audios out there. There are workbooks. There's the Stephen Covey Institute that's right here in Draper. I think the home of where they kind of formulate their training programs is right here in Draper, Utah. And I mean, I have to tell you that uh, my experience with these habits are and these principles are it's like the peeling of an onion, if you get what I mean, because here we are like thinking that we might know this habit like front and back, and when in reality, the deeper you dive and the deeper you really study this material, you're going to be able to transfer it in so many different ways to different parts of your life. It could be with, your business. It can be with your family, but these are kind of life skills. It's that personal growth and development that each one of us, I know, that are on here are seeking all of the time, because we know the core root of our success many times is focusing on ourselves more than the business, because we know it's 90% mindset and 10% skills. So, sharing habit number four, you guys, I went deep with this. I listened to the audio, I read the chapters in the book, I did the workbook. It's like I wanted to really kind of bring together a really concise takeaway with think win win. So give me a wave if you are a think win win person, or maybe you don't know, but like give me a wave, because you guys, it is the way to run a successful business with LifeVantage. It's the way to deepen your relationships. It's the way to like move in your family dynamics if you're thinking win-win. Because many times it's like, and I have to say, many times we think we're thinking win-win, but maybe a different kind of relationship comes in with a win-lose or a lose-win, or maybe in that, moment, you're in a lose-lose kind of mentality. So we're going to jump right in and talk about start with kind of the cards, which are housed on our Telegram thread. They're pinned. So if you're having trouble finding them, I pulled this particular one out so everybody could see them. And habit four really builds on habits one, two, and three. And what we know is that there is the personal victories that happen in the very beginning, where it's all based on dependence, right? And when we move into principle number four, five, and six, it's really about that interdependence, which is really taking this thing to the next level. It's turning the I into we, and we know with network marketing that we have to do that. It is never about us. If we make it about us, our business doesn't grow. If we make it about team, if we make it about what's right in front of your prospect and what works for them, we grow in that way. So the principle, so habit number four, think win-win. The principle of abundance is very key. Habit four is about going into each situation, looking for ways that everyone can win, not just what's best for me or what's best for them. It's about how everyone can win. And a common paradigm that we often can relate to is the more you get, the less there is for me. And in our businesses, it could be like that FOMO of, oh my gosh, that person, it's the comparison syndrome. It's that person has had more success. That person, it's that scarcity mindset that we need to step away from, because there are enough people on the planet for all of us. And we know that working on our abundance mindset is highly effective. So one of the paradigms recommended, and can be part of an affirmation that you say every day, it can be part of your life, is there's more than enough for everyone, right? And I love this quote, is win-win is a frame of mind and heart that constantly seeks mutual benefit in all human interactions. And that's straight from Stephen Covey. So it's a frame of mind. It's not it's not how we're identifying like a personality trait. It's literally a frame of mind. It's our paradigm, right? And we need to be thinking about everyone that we're in touch with, basically, when we're talking about this. So some of the highly effective practices for win-win is about balancing courage and consideration. And it's the balance between that, having the courage and the consideration, and consider others people's wins as well as your own. And this, if we do kind of an abundance, self-check, just kind of like take a minute and answer these questions. Do you tend toward abundance or scarcity? And just be real with yourself. Just kind of take a note in your notebook that's hopefully dedicated to your personal growth journey. I'd highly recommend a journal that's tied to that. And just ask yourself. And I think many of us who are in this business and have been in it for a while, we love the abundant mindset, and scarcity creeps in here and there. Like maybe our volume drops and the scarcity comes in, and then we turn into the hunter network marketer that scares everyone away, right? Like there are different kind of mindsets, but really doing that abundant self-check. How do your paradigms about abundance and scarcity affect how you engage with others? And this is really important because the lens that we're seeing, our person right in front of us, our situation right in front of us, really we're either, abundant in our mindset, in our lens, or we're in scarcity mindset. So if we're in a scarcity mindset, let's say we're having a bad day and maybe a bounce checked or a check bounced, even if there are checks these days, but you know what I'm saying? Maybe it's something happened. There was a fraud on your account and this is what happened to me most recently. I'll give you my example. I was getting something clear. Something was on my credit report. We had no idea it was on there. And we went to clear it up through the collections agency because it had been sitting on there, but we didn't know it. It's not supposed to be on there. Okay. And I was hooked up with with a company that was supposed to help me clear up my debt. Okay. This came from the bank, that came from the debt collector, that all of a sudden $900 is taken out of our account, and it was allotted for other things. So do you think I was in an abundant mindset at that moment or a scarcity mindset? I mean, we were just like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like it felt so legit. So it's about doing those self checks all around and choosing your reaction, choosing how you're engaging, and really flipping that paradigm. And how I flipped my paradigm around this like unfortunate, story is I just followed through in action and did everything I could to try to clear it up. And I didn't beat myself up. And I went to the bank and I called we did all the things we could do. And it was about saying, huh, okay, this is interesting. Panning out of the emotion and being able to really view this situation as, okay, all right, this is part of cleaning it up for more flow and abundance to happen. So it was a really powerful situation that just happened the other day. So how do your paradigms about abundance and scarcity affect your own happiness and well-being? So really think about that. Like, if we're an abundant mindset, do you think we're happier? Heck yeah. Everything's good when we're in an abundant mindset, right? And do you think that affects our well-being? If we're, feeling better, if our mindset is really good, our bodies are going to be feeling better. The cortisol levels might not be through the roof. We're not maybe doubling or tripling up on our protandim NRF2, who knows? But it's really important. Like we have a choice, and that abundant self-check is really important to something you can just kind of take note on and make a note and be in action. So balancing courage and consideration. Courage is being willing to speak your thoughts and feelings even when it's hard. Consideration is being willing to listen to others' thoughts and feelings even when it's hard. The essence of win-win thinking is to balance these, to be compassionate and considerate of others at the same time as you represent your own needs. So I will go into an example on how to balance courage and consideration. So we're going to talk about the paradigms of human interaction. Each balances courage and consideration differently. And when we're looking at how the win-win, we know win-win is powerful, and here's why. It's around partnership because we're talking about both sides having it be a win-win. Sometimes we know that's not always the case. Um, and a win-lose can be more of, a win-win is partnership. We can find a win for both of us. A win-lose is more of a steamroller. I only win if others lose, or my way or the highway, or this is how it's going to go. And one of the biggest challenges to get to win-win is to handle the win-lose situations. Sometimes strong leadership is in a, like, I know what's right. I have the perfect thing for you. I have the answer for you, and is very strong in their leadership and strong in what they think. And sometimes steamrolling is not the answer. But, here's I'm going to go through these and give an example like win lose. If the way of a win lose situation to change is to have that leadership listen, maybe take a little more to listen, maybe come up with building that trust with that person, right? Like trust is like kind of the foundation. It could be really take offering solutions and allowing just more of an understanding and compassion to roll through. Um, and so when we're looking at this, we have with the win-win partner, you have high courage and you have high consideration. So you guys, that's the ultimate. That's where we want to be in this graph on, and when we're, balancing our, like where we want to end up is in that win-win corner. And so a lot of times, even as a leader, like on our team, it's like somebody who might come from a very strict, almost E-quadrant business and is stepping into network marketing. They may have a win-lose kind of experience because they were told other things and it was more of a boss and employee relationship, right? And the boss is always right and the employee has to do what they say kind of thing, right? So when we're talking about LifeVantage in our businesses, our team that we're working with may have some of these tendencies. So I think so it's really important for us to understand where they're coming from. And that really rolls into our next habit next week is really seek to understand really before anything, right? You're really looking to understand that person in front of you and their concerns. So I just love this. And then the lose win is kind of like the doormat, like you're the people pleaser, people walk all over you. You're willing to lose so that someone else can win. And really what that equates to is muted feelings that could come out in different ways. Like you kind of stuff, it's the stuffer, like, and it could come out in your health. It could come out in a way that you really didn't want to communicate. So for the lose win, it's really about, and we may have people pleasers on our team. We might have, that person that says one thing but does another, right? Because they just don't want to lose your respect. And really it's about, kind of finding that common ground with that person. And then the lose-lose is somebody who's strictly out. Really, it's just sabotaging. So it's low courage and low consideration. And fortunately, I know from this call that none of us are in this category, but we may be handling people that are in a lose-lose situation. Some people that say yes to the business might, end up sabotaging yourself or themselves or sabotaging their team with, jealousy or comparison or, all those things. So it's really great to identify, like kind of understand these roles that we can run into and identify because we may be win-win in our mind, but maybe there's a situation where it's a win-lose. Maybe there's one situation where you're like, I'm throwing my hands up, you just take that win, you know? And so I think, um, understanding the balance between the courage, that to have a tough conversation, the courage to have high consideration, even though you might think differently about a situation. And, as we're, and here's, an example too, LifeVantage just partnered with Love Biome, and we are going to have a whole nother network marketing company come into LifeVantage, for the best reasons, and I believe for the best intentions, and they're all going to be frontline to the company. They may have a different system. They might have, and fortunately their culture is like ours, but I think really, how as current LifeVantage consultants, having a win-win partnership with this new brand and our new, kind of compadres is really going to be important. And that just comes again with seeking to understand before we say, oh my gosh, their way is not the way that this works. But I think, as we're looking at this merger coming up in November, October, it, kind of finalizes, but with the full immersion of the compensation plan and having them frontline and being um, at Momentum Academy, we absolutely need to roll forward with win-win. So hopefully you'll take something away today as I move through these last slides, but very, very powerful. There are 5 dimensions to a win-win, kind of the characteristics of win-win. Okay. There are 5 dimensions. The first dimension is character. And character is super important. Integrity. It's the value we place on ourselves. It's the cornerstone. Okay. And when, we have to like focus on our personal integrity. And you guys, it really has everything to do with our own value. How we view our own value is our integrity. Okay. And how we move forward, putting it into action. Maturity and the abundance mentality. And so, it's being mature enough to slow down and make a good decision. It's that abundance and mentality that really brings a win-win, success. The second dimension of win-win is relationships. Where are you in those relationships? The trust, the emotional bank accounts, all of these things, like, trust is the cornerstone as well of really having these win-win relationships. Because if you don't trust somebody to take ownership of their business, or you don't trust a brand new consultant to do the right thing, they're going to feel like, the emotional bank account, there are no deposits because there's a trust missing there. And that's really important for us to take part in. The third dimension are the agreements. There are 5 elements to the agreements. And what's really great is the desired results, the guidelines, our resources, accountability, and consequences. These are all really important. Like the accountability, it's about taking ownership, right, in a win-win situation and holding ourselves accountable and really following through with what we said, our integrity. We have guidelines, we have resources. What's really great is that because you're on this call and because you're part of LifeVantage, we have a winning formula, right? The character has to do with you. The second dimension is your relationships. The third is really having to do with what your why, what you're agreeing to when you show up, how we're structuring like your business for you, and setting the proper goals and really setting things up for you for your life, right? For your like how you're rolling with your business, the systems that are in place. You guys, our systems and the processes in order to get there are absolutely they're hands down. And it really, and I wrote something down. I have so many notes on this, but basically, the win-win dimension, we've got it from a business to consumer kind of setup. The systems in place that our team has are set up for success. If we have a poor system, we cannot expect winning results, right? So the fortunate thing is we have a great system here and to put into place. It's the ITT, it's the attending events, it's the, kind of all of the principles backing like how we run our business, super simple. And really the processes to make it all work in a win-win situation is really really important. It's about taking ourselves. I took some really good notes on this, but it's really about, the processes are in place to really be able to hear where a person's maybe they're having issues or troubles with something, and want to bring it to the table. There's a process with that. And it's really about seeing the problem, identifying the key issues. What results would, constitute it something being fully accepted in a win-win relationship or situation, and then just identifying new options that work for both of you. So, what's the cost for you and for others when courage and consideration are out of balance? Try it. These tips can help you balance courage and consideration. Tell it like it is, but be kind. Lead with questions. Emphasize shared goals and opportunities. Give everyone a chance to speak. Be honest about what you don't know. That's the beauty in this too. Like, you guys, like, we don't have to be the specialist. Our system is the specialist. We can point, we can create third-party calls. We can take ourselves out of that specialist position, which is really great. Some people, in their fields are specialists and it pairs really well with this. But remember, there are different ways to that our business runs kind of in the B quadrant versus where an S quadrant specialist, you have to be a specialist, right? But in this business, you don't. You can really point. So being honest when we're answering questions from a consultant, like, you know what? That's a great question. I actually don't know. I'm gonna get Marcy Nettles on the phone because she is amazing when it comes to, answering this type of question. So it's really about kind of leverage, right? Leveraging the systems here. Propose alternatives that work for everyone, and then admit when you're wrong. And I think, in this business, really having that win-win attitude, we don't have to be right all the time. It's not about that. It's like if something, if something happens, we're human. It's about really taking responsibility. You're kind of diffusing that. And in our business and in, kind of the land of being the most effective, trust is like critical. And so if people like, if you're answering questions sort of half-heartedly or don't really have the right answer, that's diminishing your trust. So it's really important to, not like think you might know the answer and then just kind of answer a question. And I'm speaking about being a resource for someone, working with maybe a new consultant where you don't have a history with them. Maybe you're just brand new with them. Building the foundation for trust again is really absolutely important here. So consider others people's wins as well as your own. Taking the time to think about what a win looks like for others shows you're invested in everyone's success. But don't stop at assuming what a win looks like for others. They need to agree to it. So here's an example that, I was trying to think of examples we could kind of put to use, but a LifeVantage sponsor and a brand new team member, okay? Wins for you as a LifeVantage sponsor and wins for them as a brand new team member. They might look a little different. So when a person is getting started, as a sponsor, I want to understanding and vision in why LifeVantage for them. So that's what I want to, a win for me is understanding a brand new person's vision and what they want out of LifeVantage. A win for them might be that they're expressing their why for the first time and they're heard and they're moved. Clarity would be a win for me as a LifeVantage enroller in creating a game plan that matches their timetable. And a win for them might be, I can do this, right? Like the expectation that somebody's business has to look a certain way or run a certain way right out of the gate. You guys, getting people started for me almost looks different every single time. I mean, there's a structure that we follow, but where people are, there's some people that buy the 9.99 pack and are just vetting the products. So, do you think as having a win-win situation, like we don't want to put pressure on a consultant, brand new team member, to do things that they're not really ready to do yet because it's not where they are. So it's going to really incorporate like an understanding and a listening from us to create a win-win situation with that brand new consultant. So engagement and action is what I'm looking for, and would be a win for me. But loving what they're bringing and tuning into what win-win looks like for them may look different, right? A win for them with engagement and action might be positive feedback. It might be setting proper expectations where they know, like, okay, if I invite five people to my meeting, letting them know only one person is going to show, like making sure their expectations are clear with what it means to have a win for them. You guys, a win for a brand new consultant in your mind might be to rank advance them, but for them, a win-win situation is they're adding 20 names to their list. So I think it's really important that we're tapping in and tuning into a brand new consultant's why, their timetable, the engagement and action honestly, it's really where um, we as leaders who've been in a while, we see the path, right? They might not be there yet. So I think it's meeting people where they are. And then my win for a brand new consultant is a happy team member. We want them happy. We want them feeling like they can do it. And for a win for them could be celebrating something really small, like, hey, you got your first customer. And they might feel really good at that with that celebration. And big wins as well, certainly big wins. But it could be the little things like, that we're creating. So if we're creating a win-win situation with the team member, we just really want to not make them feel like they're not doing a good job. They're not doing what you think they should be doing. They're not, this. Let's just stick with what's working and celebrating what they are bringing. And when they come to you and ask, like, hey, my business is not moving as fast as I want it to. What do you think? And they're really asking and coming to you for with these questions. That's the time to really dive in um and give them that information of okay, let's tweak this, let's tweak that. Okay, think about it. It can be easy to get caught up in what a win looks like for you and forget about others. Are you out of balance in any of your relationships? How can you correct that balance? Pick a situation you're facing, personal or professional, and draw a T chart. On one side, write down what win-win looks like for you. On the other, write down what win looks like for the other person. Share with them to start the conversation. Now, I just took a situation, LifeVantage business versus family time. Wins for me, it's personal sponsoring time, networking events, team trainings and systems, structure for the team, personal growth, leadership development, like bring it on. Like I know what that looks like. When I ask my family, it's setting dates with Chris and Rose. It's actually having trips to visit family in the East, being there for races and all the things important as a non-negotiable for Rose. Plan a vacation, daily dinners together, spontaneous outings, hikes, games, good communication. So even when I got clear with that, I was like, oh, okay. It felt so much clearer to write what was the win for me and what does it look like for my family. So, so basically, as we sum this up, um, I wrote a bunch of notes that I wanted to read to you, but I'm just going to go for it like this because we are at 2:30. Um, the, the way we move through, here's the thing. Like we can only achieve win-win solutions, if we're kind of doing the work, right? It's not a character like thing that's win-win. This is like a paradigm for really having all sides being seen here. It takes work, it takes a little bit of time, but having, your relationships, your trust, everything just like solidified in your own character and building from there in these win-win, kind of scenarios, is absolutely important. And everything kind of builds on the first three habits, and seeking to understand, like I said, this next habit that we're going to roll into is really the foundation for that. I appreciate you guys showing up here today on a Saturday. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then I'm going to open it up as soon as I stop the recording. Thanks, guys.